Hi, everyone, and welcome to a special Insomnia episode. I'm super excited for this one. Welcome back, Ali.
Hi, Daniel. Thanks for inviting me again.
Anytime. How are you today?
Perfect. Hope you are well too.
Absolutely. It's 10 a.m. here in the West Coast, and it's evening right in Europe.
Yeah, it's 7. Very hot evening.
Are you? Do you follow? Have you followed the soccer? Are you interested in it at all, or not really?
No, I'm not really.
Okay, very cool. Well, that said, yeah, so what are we going to talk about today? Well, I'm really excited about talking about this matrix idea, super excited about this. And so for everyone tuning in here, I recorded a video, I believe it was like about 2 weeks ago, where I talked about sort of like a new direction with like NATO, like the teaching here, which nothing changed in the teaching, but the idea was just like, when somebody comes to the channel here, joins the community here, or a client or something like that, then maybe instead of looking at it as like, okay, this person has trouble sleeping, let's help this person sleep better, to look at it more as an opportunity to be like, it can be much more than that. It can be like, this person has some trouble sleeping. Let's look at it as an opportunity for this person to kind of learn about themselves, learn how the mind works, and then sleep well, but also have like this insight that can help in like all aspects of life. That was kind of my big idea. Now, then you posted a comment on that video, basically outlining this idea of like people who sleep well are sort of in a matrix. They don't really understand what's happening, and it was a really cool comment, and I really wanted to expand on that. So take it from there. Like actually take us to like, did that idea come in the spur of a moment, or it was an idea that you had that just fit well into comment there, and go from there?
Yeah, I had this thought for quite some time, and I was thinking about even like writing a post or something like this, because this seemed like the movie Matrix, and understanding the plot, and then there's so many similarities when it comes to insomnia. And I just it felt like like a right moment, because it was exactly about this kind of like transformational moment. Because when you go through insomnia, through the whole like it at first it's a struggle, but once you understand really what insomnia is, and then when you become really immune to insomnia, it affects your like life in general, because you understand yourself better. You can apply things that you learned also in other areas of life. So it's like really transformational moment. And that matrix analogy is basically that how I explain it to myself is that matrix is like an illusion that people control sleep. So like sleep is that anyone can fall asleep at any moment, like, and there are some good sleepers, bad sleepers, and in reality it is all like it's an illusion, because in reality sleep is not we cannot control sleep, like no one can. And basically when people meet with that kind of like hard truth, that actually sleep cannot be controlled, like no matter how hard they try, they cannot make themselves fall asleep, then it is like they took that red pill, and they just like had this kind of like a glimpse of, they saw the matrix, but they were not in the matrix, but they saw it, that it's like like there is something like the things that they used to believe, or they thought they knew and they were sure about, that they aren't like this anymore. So, and this comes like really scary, like they get really scared, and naturally they want to go back, they want to take that blue pill and forget that such issue exists, so, and just like continue like sleeping and thinking or believing that sleep, like they can control sleep, they can there is some like a magic trick that will make them fall asleep. And this kind of like
sorry, Ali,
yes, sure.
sorry to interrupt you there, but I just realized as we're speaking here that some people who tune into this may be like, what the matrix, what the blue pill, what the red pill, what are these people talking about?
Yeah.
So just for anyone who's tuning in here, who's like confused here, I just want to very quickly say that there's a classic movie, but I believe it's almost like, it's probably 20 years old now. But the whole premise of the idea is that this like artificial intelligence, kind of like this kind of big robot or artificial intelligence that kind of taken over the world. But that robot, if you will, or that intelligence, it needs energy, and that energy comes from us humans. So we humans have become like, we're no longer like, we're like harvested and bred by these machines, and we live in these little cocoons in reality. And these machines have stuck things in us and like takes our energy for its survival. But of course, like if we humans were like, knew that that was our life, we would kind of like just die, like just become depressed and die or something. So the machine creates an illusion that is the matrix, and that illusion is what we see here. Like, okay, I wake up, I have my coffee. That's not happening in reality, but that is the matrix. And then there's like the protagonist, like the main character. He is like this hacker, and somehow I don't know if he has had some idea that there is a matrix or something, but he gets kind of like abducted by the resistance, and they kind of give him this choice. Like the red pill is like, if you take the red pill, you're gonna see the complete matrix and see everything for what it is. If you take the blue pill, you just go back in the matrix, you forget everything that's happened, and you're living in this imagination again. So that was a little quick synopsis for anyone who hadn't seen it, and I highly recommend it, by the way. So sorry, I started there. Take it away, Lee.
Thanks. So when I'm talking about pill and everything, it is like metaphorical pill, right? It's just, that you start seeing the illusion the moment that you realize that like sleep is not like under, cannot be controlled. And just the thing is, like when when you start seeing that, that there is this kind of like illusion like of sleep control, it doesn't mean that once you realize that it's all an illusion, you will get frustrated. I would say it's the opposite, actually. When you realize that there is, it is all kind of like you understand how it works, so you can better navigate it. You are no longer the victim of it. You are more like, you kind of like become a master, because then it's like, how it works, how to act, what to do, and how to what kind of mindset to have, so just to continue with that thing. So that once people start realizing that they cannot really control their sleep, they get like scared and so on, they want to go back, they want to forget, but there is, in reality, you cannot you cannot erase from memory those like poor nights, because it's like impossible. And any sort of control, like attempts to bring back control, either by trying to researching for any cures or any some tips, for example, people start taking melatonin, and then they go and start researching, find out that there is some super drug or whatever that improves sleep, or CBT or whatever, this all sorts of remedies are just the attempt to go back and kind of like get sleep under control. But the reality is that sleep cannot be controlled, and no one actually has that control. And actually, like, maybe that sounds crazy, but people who are good sleepers, who are at this moment, they don't have any trouble sleeping, they're actually living that kind of illusion, they're
in the matrix,
ignorant of that, right? And that's why they're kind of like, they're happy, they don't know that they cannot control sleep. But once, like, I believe that once there are some certain circumstances met, then person can become, like, more vigilant towards their sleep, and then start, like resolving their sleep, or trying to improve sleep and so on, and they can get back, to that rabbit hole. So I would say is that good sleepers are the ones who are just ignorant of that, like this illusion of control. So and basically, that was the whole metaphor, and the way how I look at this, that it is really relieving to know that, once you understand, like, you cannot control sleep, but at the same time, it is really important to understand that sleep is 100% yours, meaning that you cannot unlearn sleep. Your sleep cannot be broken. It's like, it's really impossible to have some sort of like a bug in the system or something like this. This is like physically not possible. What is actually happening is that this hypervigilance, hyper arousal, all sorts of beliefs around this like sleep topic is something that actually make this sleep less possible, or not possible, I mean, like
happiness.
So, but in reality, like, people cannot unlearn sleep. So I understand this kind of worry. Many people at the beginning, they think that, there must be something wrong with their, like some neurotransmitters or so on. So they just try to figure out something is wrong with them, but in reality, there is nothing wrong with them. And I think it's really important to understand. It is just that you started being you started to realize that that sleep is not under control, and you kind of you want to get it back, and that's basically this desire is everything that basically keeps that insomnia running. But as soon as you understand that, and you actually understand that you are also safe, because insomnia cannot harm you, no matter how long it is. If it's like 4 days with no sleep, 5 days, it doesn't really matter. You are safe. That's the main kind of like effect, and you don't really need to believe that, because many people, especially at the beginning, I totally understand, and I felt exactly the same way. I read something that, even I remember that when in the beginning I was also watching some of your videos, and you were saying that there is no actually danger, and I understood it with my rational brain, but it was I really there's some piece of inside is missing. But as the more I experienced all those kind of moments when I was sleeping better than sleeping bad again, and so on and so on, then I realized that there is no danger at all. So basically, once you see sleep for what it, or the whole this illusion for what it really is, and that you're safe, and that there is nothing wrong with you, sleep cannot be broken or unlearned. This is basically a path towards this kind of you get a huge relief. So you stop really trying to resolve it. You accept any possibility, anyone can have a poor night sleep, and it never killed anyone, it never hurt anyone. So this is basically the whole journey comes to this kind of idea. There's nothing you can do about to make yourself sleep. You're safe, you're not broken. It eventually every sleep this kind of speed bump will end, no matter what. That's the fact. So and I think this matrix analogy helps to kind of understand it maybe better. I don't know if it can actually maybe doesn't really give you any practical what you should do about it, but just you understand that this is the matrix is something that illusion that everyone have, everyone in the world, they think that they control their sleep. So, and those who are ignorant of that illusion, they sleep well. But those who are already they have this experience that sleep cannot be controlled, they begin to struggle. But as long as they stay on that path and learning and living through that experience, and then finally arriving to that conclusion, yes, exactly, there is nothing I can do to fall asleep, and sleep cannot be controlled, but at the same time I'm safe, my sleep is not broken, it will always come no matter what. So I think this is really helpful.
Yeah. 100%. Well said. And I'm just going to kind of give a little summary, and then we can go from there. But basically, to go back to the matrix analogy here is you're living in an illusion, and then something happens in your life, and then you have some trouble sleeping, and then you're like, dang, what happened? I used to have control. I used to be able to do this. Then you can't. This is basically you kind of tasted the red pill here. You're kind of starting to see that things are kind of not what they were, right?
Exactly.
And in the movie, there's actually this one character, I'm sure you remember him. He's kind of like the traitor, the bad guy, right? Who talks to Neo, and he's like, I know what you're thinking. I should have taken the blue pill, because they both took the red pill. And this guy is he wishes he could just go back to the matrix, which is so natural when you're really starting to struggle. I wish I could just forget about this. I just want to sleep. I don't want to know about this. I don't want to learn. I want to educate myself. Why should I educate myself? I just want to be like things were before. But that's no longer an option. And here's why, when people hear that, who are listening now, may see I wish that was an option. But where I'm going here is to say that you're actually on your path to something that may be more valuable than you could even imagine, which is that when you go down the path of the red pill, then you start, like you say, Sally, you start seeing that you're safe, there's nothing going on. And then guess what can happen is you sleep well with awareness. You sleep well even if you're aware of the matrix, right? And then you're in this position of you're kind of immune, you're invulnerable. not only when it comes to insomnia, but like other parts of life where there were other matrices, right?
Yeah.
And so in your personal experience or just general thoughts, what are some kind of the other matrices, or how can this journey be really helpful in other aspects of life?
Yeah. I think it's like I would say many situations where people kind of feel that, there is something that can be easily, taking, anywhere that they think that they control situation, but in reality they cannot. For example, let's say a person who is sociophobic, let's say person who is for example, person who is afraid of public speaking or anything, right? And they get so anxious because they have this idea, confident people are the ones who can, make things happen, and control stuff. But in reality, you cannot really control other people. You cannot control what other people do or think or how they behave. This is not in your power. Like, you are responsible. Like, I like to say this, that you're 100% responsible for your behavior, your thoughts and your emotions, and you're 0% responsible for behavior, thoughts and emotions of others. And this is also this kind of like, you don't have really control. So let's say a person who is really afraid of public speaking, and he really wants to, everyone like, the presentation or everything. And this is this desire to control how people will think of you. This also can create a lot of trouble, and it will create the opposite effect. So people will start, they will start being more worried, or, they will forget things and so on. So this actually like self-sabotaging. So exactly like happens during insomnia, right? You really want to get sleep, under control. You want to fall asleep without any problems. And this desire, this is something that brings, the whole trouble sleeping. And realizing that you don't have control there. You cannot control how anyone, anyone will think of you, or how they will, like you or not. And once you reach that, once you understand this kind of like this matrix, or this illusion of control, and then there is no actual, control, then it becomes really relieving moment when you realize, like, what, there is nothing I can do to make those people like my presentation. There is literally nothing I can do. So you just relax and you do your stuff, but of course it takes practice. It's not always like smooth and so on. So this is something that I wanted, also share, that other areas, like where you thought you had control, but you don't really have control.
Yeah, very well said. And, going back to that, using your second kind of example here, it can easily be thought that, oh, that person who's such a good speaker, oh my gosh, she has such confidence. She can make herself think that she can conquer the world. She can make herself do this. She can make herself think this and feel this. She can make other people, but she can't. Either like she's kind of like in the matrix where she has never thought of these things and she just does it, like, or maybe she's actually quite aware of it and she's like, I didn't know that I can't control anything, so I just do it. Exactly. But again, this applies like so broadly, like kind of as we were taking, like what I was thinking, what would my go-to example be? For me, it would be something like parenting, because I have pretty small kids, and this is such a big part of my life. When classic one is like, oh my God, so-and-so, they can make their kid eats like this much spaghetti, right? But I can't make my kid eat this much spaghetti. Like, oh, what am I doing wrong? And it's the same illusion that those other parents, they have the power to make their kids eat, the power to make their kids like reading, the power to make their kids sleep. Complete matrix right there. Like, it's a huge matrix.
Exactly. And then this is where it comes, this natural, I totally understand the desire of people who are, who usually write me and ask, like, what did I do? What is it exactly? What worked for you, for you in this kind of like to let go or to start sleeping or whatever. And for me, it's really difficult to give them, like, there's no trick. I cannot give you like, like the formula or like the recipe, just okay, do this, consistently, and, it will be fine. But it's just the idea of this acceptance that you don't have control over that, and just letting this go. And that's the key. And this is something that you need to go, like you have to make this path on your own. Like, there is no one can, like, tell you, like tell you something that it will immediately transform, like you will immediately understand, but you need to live through that experience. And this is what in my experience, when I had trouble sleeping, I could read a lot, and sometimes it was already kind of this way of avoiding like living like the things that I learned. So for example, I could find myself stuck into that loop of always like in how to say, binge watching some videos, and then I realized like I understand so much, and but it still doesn't help me, and then I want to watch more and more, and I see this problem because it's exactly the case when you're looking at other person, like how like some parents can make their children eat spaghetti, and then you realize, okay, there must be some trick they did, and if I do that, I will have exactly the same result. But it doesn't really work like that. And what actually the best ever insights come from within yourself. So you're the one who will generate those kind of like insights, this transformation. It is never comes like from outside. It can you are, for example, you are more like a guidance, you just give information, here you go, but what people do with that information, it's only up to them, and it's kind of like their quest, to figure it out, because there's no one else that can do it for them. So
yeah, no, that's a great one. And we talked about this, I think, in within the sleep coach school program and everything, but that yeah, exactly, there's rarely, it's never actually that you have a conversation with the client and in that moment the client goes like, yes, that's it. It's more like the client goes like, yeah, and that may be something, and then passively some point it kind of coalesces, and that's exactly, the insight comes from within. It kind of happens within. Great point.
exactly.
And it's passive again, so everybody's like, I have to have the insight. No, it's not the way it happens. It happens all by itself. Now, two things, as we were kind of preparing to do this episode, there were kind of two things that I wanted to talk about that I thought were interesting. And one of them is the idea. So in the movie The Matrix, there's kind of like a collective matrix. Everybody takes part in this, like kind of like a virtual reality type of space where everybody's in this collective illusion. And that led me to think about like when in what we're talking about in the context of insomnia, there's sort of like, there's the internal matrix where an individual person may think sort of like, I could control sleep before, and now I lost the ability to control. But there's also something of a collective matrix whereby the way we talk to each other, the way we hear what other people say, we're in many areas of life. I think there's almost like a sort of like, if you take a lot of people that never had trouble sleeping, they can speak in a way that it creates a collective matrix too. But anyway, I thought that was like an interesting idea. Do you think of the matrix as like internal or kind of collective, or both?
I would say it's something that is like, yeah, it's kind of both, because it's there. It's not like something that created only like by, us, but it's something that, with all that kind of like misinformation, or, I would say like propaganda or something like this, because, sleep market is such a huge market, basically, with all the sleeping pills, with all the, like super pillows, heavy blankets, blackout curtain, whatever. And everyone, like, who I totally understand, the desire of, people who want to sell you something to improve your sleep. They will tell you 8 hours is really important, because this is actually something that will, persuade you to do that. So it's kind of like some process that is really hard to stop right now, because it's all already in the mind of everyone, basically. And once you start getting away from that matrix, and then you realize like, okay, how much there is like, many people are go around their days not realizing like a lot of things that, perceiving it as something else. So yeah, I think it is more like sustained by everyone. So
it's just, exactly right. It's just like, yeah, I hadn't thought about it exactly like that, but just like you say, like people that are really trying to sell you something, they sort of maintain the matrix by this idea that you can do this to achieve this, you have some control. and some of them are probably just completely ignorant. They somehow think that yeah, it somehow can be like, and even sort of like these in passing sort of well-intended comments like, okay, you know, for wellness, make sure you run every day, take care of your life, and make sure you get enough sleep. Like that little well-intended, perhaps just a little comment there feeds the matrix, feeds the idea.
Exactly,
So,
because
well,
people, brain naturally wants to control things.
yeah,
We want to be able to, when we get into the situations when we lose control, this is like really, it goes really crazy. That is the scariest what can happen. Basically, is that you lose control. You cannot influence the situation, and this kind of like those well-intended comments, or for example when someone from your family starts giving you some advices and so on, and they truly believe that this works, and this is like their kind of like brain, also like the way how they kind of like perceive that they have this control.
yeah,
But in reality, if someone will face that situation when they don't have control, all of those advices, they will understand that this is not that easy. It's not that you cannot just take some, drink some tea and then you will fall asleep or something like that. This is not really easy. And actually, before I was reading about that. This model, this 3P model, for how insomnia starts. And then it's sometimes people think that they're only selective, like only like chosen ones who get this insomnia. But the way how I started thinking is that practically anyone can become insomniac. It doesn't matter if they are, if they're anxious people, or if they are, like, depressed or whatever. It doesn't matter. Even like the most active people, like anyone can get insomnia. It's just there should be met some certain like conditions. There should be, not should be, but for example, they have trouble sleeping and then they start solving it, and then the whole behavioral thoughts plus their beliefs that they thought that they can control. This is all that can create. So I would say anyone, even the best sleepers, would get to that situation. When they will perceive sleeplessness as threat and they're losing control, there is a high chance that they will also develop that. So it is not like a curse or like some horrible destiny that only some people go through. It is something that can happen to literally anyone, and no one is kind of safe from it. But the good news here is that once you understand this matrix, once you know that sleep cannot be controlled, and you together with sleeping better, but at the same time you also know that there is an illusion of this control of sleep, then you become like kind of like a master of that matrix. Basically, you are not like you're not in it. You're more like how to say, like managing it. I don't know how to say it properly. And the ones who are the ones who are kind of still kind of like ignorant of that control illusion, they are actually very vulnerable, because it's still in front of them. If something happens and their sleep will be somehow disturbed and they will go down the rabbit hole, they will have to go through this journey again. But once you go through that path, and you will be at the end of that path, you own it, then you become really like super immune. So this is much better place rather than going back and forgetting about the whole insomnia story. And now if I would have to choose to erase all those all the time of like my struggles, like a lot of stress and everything, just forget that I ever had insomnia, I would never choose that. I would never choose this kind of erasing memory, because now I'm much stronger, I'm more aware of things, and I'm in, I don't want to say I'm in more control, but I'm in more like I'm owning it. It's not influencing my life. So
100%. Yeah, you brought so many good points, and one of them was this, one of them was the like, now I don't want to erase the memories, because a lot of people are like doing better and be like, I'm doing better already, but I still think a lot about sleep, and it's kind of like I wish I could forget about it, but which is completely understandable, because it's not pleasant to think about it, but keep in mind that the understanding and being willing to like, have these memories, which you can't erase anyway. Those memories will serve you. Super important one. Number two was the kind of the in and out of the matrix thing, which happens so often. Somebody says, oftentimes I have clients who are like, now I'm really struggling for like a week. And then I'm like, hey, it's only been a week. So do you even need like to work with me or something like that maybe? And then like, oh yeah, but I've had like 5 times in the past in my life, I had these kind of like trouble sleeping, but it went away, which basically means to me that they kind of get a glimpse of the matrix, but then kind of something happened, they stop sleeping better, they slept better, and then they kind of back into the matrix and kind of they don't want to see the matrix, which is not very helpful because it's like, it's there, something is not right, and then it kind of becomes more full blown. So being willing to take the red pill always helps. And sorry, I want to make one third point right away here, which is sort of similar to yours, which is like, you may have a family member who never had trouble sleeping, and they kind of just don't understand, and they still think they have control, and they just be like, oh, just do this, right? But then you have this interesting one, which is someone who has started to do well and done a good amount of learning about themselves, and then they want to help others, of course, and then sort of say, but ultimately what helped me, I just stopped obsessing about it. Which is true, but very tricky, because it can seem again like that person somehow gained control and they decided to stop obsessing, but that wasn't actually what happened. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, anything can become, maybe to that person it makes, like total sense, like how they say like, okay, I stopped. Because I can also say like, I stopped obsessing, but at the same time, I'm willing to go back into the topic. I'm willing, since I'm also studying on your coach program, this is like, many people would think that once you get, rid of that problem, basically you no longer have insomnia, then it is really good not to think about that, not to go back. But in reality, when you're truly immune, like when you don't even obsess, so it will not even affect you if you go back there. So when I'm working with, or giving some thoughts and ideas to people who are asking questions, this never affects me in a way that it gets me back to that problem. Because once you really understand the matrix, you know how sleep works, that you're safe, sleep cannot be controlled, you still can have sleepless nights, like no matter what, just like no one is safe from that. And then you there's literally nothing can get you back to insomnia or this kind of like thinking patterns or those rabbit holes, because already so much and you really like stop obsessing. So I don't know if that's makes sense.
No, you said it so well. And I'll kind of summarize it with like, when somebody says I stopped obsessing, that actually paradoxically weirdly means that person became okay thinking about it. It became okay for them to think about it. It became like okay for them to obsess, and then you naturally don't obsess. Like, so it's again a little tricky there, but that's basically it.
Is this kind of like this outer layer, like you see like person is like not obsessing, and when you ask him like, okay, how did you do it, just I don't really think about it, but in reality behind that I don't really think about, there is a huge work, there is a lot of ups and downs was like happening, a lot of learning, a lot of insights that led to that place when you're no longer obsessed. But it's not just like that, just stop thinking about it, because then it creates other person who see like who still struggles, then they see like, okay, so the answer to my problems is to stop obsessing about it. Then they just like, they're persuaded that I need to stop thinking less about sleep. And this is something like, I get a lot of questions about it. How do I stop, thinking about sleep? And this is again, like actually you trying to stop thinking less about it is actually that gets you like thinking more about it.
100%. It's another, I mean, we kind of just tangentially talked about this here, but it's like this other huge matrix is the belief that other people can control what they think and what they feel. Really big one there. Oh, and you I can hear you're interacting a lot with your followers and things like that. It sounds like you're getting.
I get questions on also on the YouTube channel under my videos, and also I get some like direct messages on Instagram. So it's like, yeah.
That's super cool. And I'll link, I'll say it here. I was planning to say this at the end of the episode, but I'm just going to say it here that everybody who wants to follow Ali, see what she's up to, and get more of her amazing ideas, I'll link to her YouTube channel and Instagram account in the description here. And I had one more thing I wanted to ask you about, which came up, as I was preparing for this episode, which was, okay, let's say someone who hears this has a partner, a friend, a family member who's like definitely in the matrix, right? They're like sleeping well, they have no struggles with that, but then we've made the case that you're actually somehow better off when you're taking the red pill and you see things for what they are, etc. So should one try to help one's family members, friends, etc., to like see the matrix, even if they aren't really in any type of struggle, just for their own benefit? Or shouldn't we? Should we just let them go? What do you think?
I think that, you don't know how each person will react to that, because, like, for example, my husband, he knows everything, basically, like he understands it perfectly. And this didn't lead to any, he didn't have any struggles, even though, like, he knows what I was going through. He knows what now I understand and everything. So I would say that it is good to basically, like, since we earlier said that there is a lot of misinformation, like this kind of collective belief that you need to sleep 8 hours, you need to go to bed before, I don't know, 10, because like at 11 you have some, super regeneration process happening, whatever, there are a lot of this kind of like nonsense out there. And just maybe, maybe like more telling about the beliefs itself, but not about, like not going, saying, what, but you actually don't control it, and because then you kind of set them on this path, like, okay, be vigilant, try to, improve it or somehow else. But it is generally, for example, when I notice, like someone talks or in a conversation mentions it, like, I need to have like 8 hours of sleep, I will do this. And I usually like sometimes give this kind of comments, you don't really need, it doesn't really make any, really affect your health or, anyhow. And mostly from this kind of like small educational bits, but not like trying to, be like this bad news or whatever better, who is like, yeah, you know what, you don't really control it. I don't think this is like really that necessary. And if that person will meet with that situation, when they get to the rabbit hole, you will be there, you will be able to guide them, and they will get out from there much faster. That's the benefit. But I wouldn't intentionally, persuade them or do something.
Exactly.
As long as totally. It doesn't bother them, just leave them.
I know, totally. And in terms of like the sleep topic here, I agree, of course, 100% with everything you said. And then there's somewhat a broader idea in my mind, like meaning, how it's a very, very tricky one, but having, I didn't take the, I didn't have the struggle with insomnia, but having had this channel and learning and understanding so much, I feel kind of like seeing the matrix is just so helpful. And one way to do that is, I believe, like the practice of like, the mindfulness meditation and kind of like the Buddhist ideas and kind of like sitting and listening to your thoughts, understanding what's happening on the inside. That can lead you to a lot of understanding. And then it becomes like the question of like, should we kind of as a global human like society, like should we advocate for that? Just as we say, like, it's good to exercise, it's good to kind of know who you are, which my opinion is that I think almost everyone would somehow have a richer life experience with some of these insights, but I don't know, maybe not. And also, like, when you try to tell people you should do this, then it's a little tricky. So I guess to me it boils down to like, should one advocate for a greater enlightenment for all humans, or just kind of like, maybe not. Maybe whoever needs it will find it. I don't know. Any kind of final thoughts on that one?
I think it's exactly that. another metrics what we've been talking about, like trying to control what how other people live, how other people react. So I think if this is something that it's meaningful to you, and you want you want to talk about it, no matter like what people think about it, no matter how they react or how many people listen to you, but you feel like a deep connection, and you will always find your own audience. So if you set this kind of like goal, I want to reach everyone and make everyone understand, it is like exactly that I want everyone to like me.
Exactly.
It is
Yeah.
not possible again. So this is another kind of like a metric.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny. It's a perfect end to this video. How like my idea, I realized, is kind of like an invitation to create like another matrix there, 100%. So perfect.
I think what you're doing is really great, and those people who really need to listen to what you are to say, and what you really like you're motivated, you like this topic, and you anyway find your audience. That's what matters. And since sleep is so universal, and there are much more insomniacs out there, they just don't know about it, so they will be naturally coming. So without even like that much effort, I would say.
100%.
I don't know, that's just my thoughts.
No, it's great. Super nice conversation, Ali. And you when how many, like, you're graduating very soon?
Yeah, I am. Actually, like it was beginning of May or something I registered, so it should be.
And that's
soon.
awesome. And like I don't mean to put you on the spot. This wasn't like, I didn't plan to ask you this, but I'm very curious, and I'm sure the audience will be curious too. But are you planning to like launch some sort of program, or are you just kind of like building, kind of growing your platforms, or what are your thoughts for the next coming weeks, months, etc.?
Yeah, I want to grow like kind of like a knowledge base. So basically, this is why I started my YouTube channel, because of course, like I would like to do like kind of like more personal coaching, but just to save time, not to explain the basics. That's why I'm doing this kind of like that first. There are available resources that person can learn on their own, and if they need extra help, then I'm here available. And I was also thinking about some kind of like a program, just like have it more like structured. And I haven't thought of like what format would or it could be. So still thinking.
Yeah, I understand. So you're sort of creating like a basic library, if you will, and people can study that, and that can serve as like, if you've studied this and you want a little further help, support, like maybe you'll be there to coach them on a personal level. Yeah. Sounds super cool. And so we'll end there. Thanks for being here again, and look forward to another episode soon.
Thank you very much. Bye.